Hey everybody, this is Pete over at the Huntsville STEAM Works lab. Today I'm going to be showing you Silhouette Studio and talking about how to prepare the files that you're going to be sending to the Silhouette vinyl cutter. It's one of the cutters we have here in the lab. This is also going to pair with another video that I have that's going to show you how to actually paint those stencils onto your project. Hey guys, this is Silhouette Studio. It is the program that actually runs the Silhouette Cameo, which is the vinyl cutter I'm going to be using for my project today. Tell you a little bit about the program. What you're seeing here is the workspace. So this is a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. There's all kinds of ways you can change it and show different types of material. You can increase the size of your paper. You can increase the size of your mat. So you have a lot of options as far as like what you can work with. But again, today we're using the standard 12 by 12 mat that comes with the machine and a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. And you can change these grids. Again, it's a very powerful program. You can change, again, all of these little features and make it as customizable as you'd like. I'm a big fan of this program. I've been using it for about 4 years now, and it's a very powerful program that's got a lot of cool options. And what I'm going to be showing you mainly today is the trace feature, how to take a JPEG image and convert it into a vector that the Silhouette can actually read to do the cutting. So the first step in that process is going to be to actually grab your image. I've got a SteamWorks logo right here, and you can, again, I'm using PNGs. I'm a big fan of them because you can have invisible backgrounds on them. Or you can use a JPEG, but with a background you may have a little bit more trouble. And if you guys are interested in me showing you how to prepare files to take away the background or cut them out of a background, let me know down in the comments and I can put together a video for that as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this file and literally just pick it up and drop it in. So now it's in my workspace. Once that's done, for this particular stencil, I want a 2-layer stencil. So the blue anvil and hammer is going to be 1 layer, or the teal, and then the orange lightning bolts are going to be my 2nd layer. So up here on the left, I've got a second project open. I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing. I'm going to drop this in here. So you'll notice that they're pretty small. I know from the toolbox that I'm going to be actually painting on, I want to have an 8-inch stencil. Coming up here close to the top left, you're going to make sure that this lock is locked. That's going to lock the aspect ratio so that when I pull on the image, it will keep from distorting. If you have that unlocked, you have the option to distort the image and pull it and stretch it. And so it will be, again, not what we want. So if you can Command Z, you can undo those. Again, make sure your lock is locked. And I know I want this to be 8 inches, not 87. Next thing, I want to center this in my workspace. So there's a button right here at the top, center to page. Once you have your image selected, just go ahead and hit that. It has a great many alignment features. You can center it to the left, right, top, bottom. Again, depending on your project, this is a great program for doing layouts on your actual workspace. I just want it centered on page. And I'm doing that so that when I lay this stencil on top of my next layer stencil, it's good. They're both going to be centered and they're both going to line up really easily. I'm going to do that here as well. So on my second project, I'm going to make sure that this is locked up here at the top left. And then I'm going to go to my width and hit 8 inches. Then I'm going to come in and center that on my page. So now I have 2 identical projects that will cut, again, lined up. Over here, the next step is that I need to now trace this. Now Silhouette has a fantastic tracing program. I'm a big fan of it. The first thing you're going to do is on the right hand side over here, you're going to go to our trace panel, select trace area. Once you do, you're going to be able to draw a box around our image. You'll notice that the yellow section is the part that's actually been selected. So to actually get the lightning bolt selected, we're going to have to play with some of these dials over here. If we raise the threshold a little bit, we will change the selection area and increase the amount that it's actually pulling from. If we come down here to scale, if we drop, I always drop the scale down to 4. It seems to crisp up the lines a little bit, so we get much sharper edges on all of our workspaces. Once we've done that, we've got a couple of trace options, so we can trace the inside and outside. Right now, we're only going to get a trace around the yellow section. Sometimes for different projects, you will have an image where you want to cut out the interior and exterior of your image. That's where you want to use this first trace option. For this project, all I want to do is trace outer edge. And so that's going to take everything on the outside of each yellow selected item and give me a trace. Once that's done, I like to move this away. The silhouette, the actual cutter will not recognize this image whatsoever. It's going to ignore it. The only thing that the cutter is actually looking for are these red lines. Those are the actual cut lines. These are vectorized lines. On our second project, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to go up here to trace, but for our second layer, we only want these lightning bolts. So again, because I believe it's because the colors of the lightning bolts are slightly lighter, it is just not recognizing them as quickly. So again, we're going to raise the threshold just ever so slightly until it picks up the lightning bolts that we are trying to trace. And you can watch it, you'll get these slightly pixelated edges, and the higher you raise the threshold, the more of the image is going to pull. And so you can play with that until you get a nice solid pickup from whatever you're trying to trace. Again, lowering the scale, I've noticed, also gives you a slightly sharper edges on your line, so I generally drop that down to the bottom. Again, we're going to trace the outer edge of those lightning bolts because there are no interior cuts, so it doesn't really matter for this project. And again, selecting the actual image, we're going to just move that out of our way so we can see what we're doing. So what we've got here is now 2 sets of cut lines. We have our lightning bolts with these extra pieces that I'm going to show you how to get rid of. And over here we have the entire image trace. So I'm going to show you how to break this apart into separate pieces to actually get rid of the parts we don't need. Once you've selected this, right click on it and you're going to release compound path. What that's going to do is make each of these individual shapes. You'll notice boxes are now outlining each individual piece of this. So what that gives you the option is to select each piece individually. And for our first layer stencil, I don't want the lightning bolts, so I'm going to select and press delete. Select and press delete all 3 of those lightning bolts. Now I'm left with just my first layer stencil, which is just the anvil and hammer in the teal. And over here, I'm going to do the exact same thing to get rid of these extra pieces that I didn't need. So that was part of the hammer that's now gone, and part of the anvil that's now deleted. Now that we've done that, we are able to send over to our machine. These are ready to cut files now. So what we do is we can go up here to the top right, we go to send. We're going to select our material, which our material is plain cardstock. The machine has the ability to cut lots of different materials. We're going to action is to cut. That also has a scoring feature and a sketching feature if there's a pin attachment and a score attachment. We are using a ratchet blade because that's what came with it, and we need to tell it to cut. This feature is going to cut every red line on it. If we were to do cut edge, we would only cut outside edges. So it would not cut this little interior section where the circle and rectangle overlap. So we're going to make sure that we're cutting. No cut would obviously not cut. It would just move the blade along that path, but not actually cut anything. I'm not sure why you'd ever do that. It's telling us that we need to ratchet our blade to setting 3. It's recommending speed 4. Pressure, I assume, is force, and the number of passes. So the number of passes is how many times the blade is going to follow this path. I generally will not mess with the speed unless I feel like my blade's getting dull, but I do like to do 2 passes. That means it's going to double cut. That means if anything on your material doesn't cut the first time, it will then run the blade a second time it doesn't know whether it cut through. It's just going to run the blade twice. After setting your speed, force, and the number of passes, we can then send this file over to our Silhouette to cut. And then once that is cut, we can actually we will just go back to our design, go to our second file, and do the exact same number of settings. Plain cardstock, cut action is to cut, ratcheted blade, we need to tell it to actually cut the image and not just move along the path. And we already have our 2 passes, it's already in there, and we will send this file over there to cut as well after it's done. So to use our Silhouette, you start with the adhesive mat. This will hold down your material. It's real sticky right here. We've got our 12 by 12 cardstock. What you want to do is line it up right here on the grid. So you just go from one corner to the other. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but the closer the better. Line it up so that it completely covers the entire grid. Then you use the arrow to load it into the machine. There's a couple little markers to mark where the mat should go. Arrows on both sides. Line it up as best you can. Hold it somewhat firmly, but loose at the same time so that it can take it into the machine. So that was our introduction into Silhouette Studio. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for coming around.